Can you hear me? Okay. Wanna do this one? No, I don't want to hold this. Okay. I stand up. Is that okay?
Yes.
I'm going to just put time to say that this symposium is kind of a middle path product of a collaboration between all of us, that is not here, that is around studying curanderos, doing web Olympia, playing with the egg. Do you have one?
It's coming.
It's coming, okay. So we've been doing that. We had an intense 10 days running around in Puebla Mountains, meeting curanderos and with their participants. We have collaborated with 3 different curanderos and maybe 30 encounters. And we are here. This was like a proof of concept doing hyperscanning. And so each and every one of us is showing different aspects of this project, and hopefully the discussion, I would like to dig in a little bit more into the ethics of doing such a work. I think each one of us will try to talk like 20 minutes max, then 5 minutes of questions to the specific speaker, hopefully giving us 15 minutes at the end for a general discussion.
It's 2 hours altogether.
I know.
Okay.
I've done the mathematics.
Just let you know.
No. I think it's okay. Okay, so is this the biggest it gets?
No.
It can be bigger. For me, it's full screen now. So this is the order as we speak. I start Antonella. I give you an overview of the neuro-anthropology and hyperscanning. And then Antonella will speak about the anthropological perspective. And then Seraïd will talk for him and behalf of Roberto, showing some preliminary results. Thank you. And finally, Clemens will show some preliminary imaging data. So, as I want to introduce the topic, I thought that I would break it down to what is neurophenomenology, which is the part that I can speak the most because my whole career is built upon that. And I can show you an example of how my lab is using neurophenomenology and the advantage of that. And then what is neuro-anthropology and what is hyperscanning and how to put it all together for such a project. And the example of another project. So neurophenomenology was initially proposed by Francisco Varela in 1996, and that was aimed kind of as a remedy to the hard problem of consciousness that Susan mentioned. It didn't really solve the problem. It's just go pragmatically around the problem, saying, okay, let's just acquire third-person data, physiology, and acquire first-person data, deep phenomenology, lived experience, and combine them together in such a way that they constrain each other. And in this way, we can gain new insights that otherwise we would not have been able to see. And yeah, so I want to give an example of how this is working for my work, for our lab, almost 2 decades. That is a dialogue that started with some kind of a pilot study with meditators, even asking them, can they even resolve their sense of self? So my lab is around studying consciousness, the neuroscience of consciousness, but also the phenomenology, mostly meditation, but also psychedelics, also channeling, also lucid dreaming, sleep paralysis, other phenomena. So this project is around the dissolution of self in meditators. We started with this kind of proof of concept that they can even do that with 12 participants, and being able to find the underlying mechanism of this kind of flexibility of the cells, from reducing the narrative, reducing the minimal, the embodied self, to kind of a no self state. And what we saw is that the underlying mechanism in that initial study was reducing of beta frequency in the posterior cingulate, very specific, 27 hertz. And then we continued with a case study with a very proficient, a 75-year-old meditator that he's the teacher. And with him, we could have done much more nuance, really going back and forth from phenomenology to his brain, using MEG, by the way, all the way we used MEG. And with that, we could really refine the phenomenology, and we again saw the same underlying mechanism of posterior cingulate cortex, 27 hertz, also temporal parietal junction. And then we said, okay, that's beautiful for a case study, but is it just him, that's Stephen's brain, or can he do it with other people? And then we had a large-scale study, 50 meditators that he has been training to do this in a supine position, in the MEG, and 50 controls. They were all able to do it, as I'll show you. And all this is described like in this hitchhiker's guide. And so this comes from a very recent paper just published in Biological Psychiatry with Antoine Lutz that is kind of summarizing. So how do we go about with neurophenomenology? Well, we take the participants, we train them, and then they go either, they do both. They go to the MEG, play around with maintaining boundaries, dissolving boundaries, maintaining, dissolving. So we have a statistical power. And again, what we can see is the posterior cingulate cortex. This is our Euro 27 hertz. It's very, very robust, this phenomena. And then we also do the systematic interview between the brain and the phenomenology is robust, but there is no correlation between the neural part and just scales, like the 5-dimensional altered state of consciousness. There is no. So that's one way of showing why phenomenology is important. Another thing, and that's a little bit subtle, but I don't know if you can see that. This is the correlation between 5 dimensions of the phenomenology, and just one is outside, the valence. The valence is not connected with everything else. And we've been able to gain some more insight about that. I'm not sure if I can put it all in, let's see. But then the next step here is to see, let's look at the brain. And if we focus just on that. So first of all, this is the solution versus the baseline, but we are really looking at the solution versus maintenance of cell boundaries. But in any case, it's the 27 hertz band, and it's localized to the posterior cingulate. But then when we contrast just the full dissolvers to all the others, what we see is a very significant difference between them. These are the full dissolvers, these are the others, in terms of the power in the posterior cingulate in the 57 hertz. And again, it correlates with the hours of meditation, the dissolution score, the sense of location, the first person perspective. It does not correlate with affect. What does it mean, affect? They were all able to do it, but some had a blissful experience, and others just freaked out. Even though they do it volitionally, trained to do it, but it could be very scary. Okay, and now I want to show you what was our insight with the valence, what it does correlate with. This is a bit of a side turn, but I think it's very interesting. This is Yair Dor Zeiderman. I've been working with him for over a decade, such a bliss. And he developed this task that is about death denial. So it's kind of complicated. We see the task is that you see your own face and a stranger's face. And above that, you can see either a neutral word or a word of death, like a corpse or a grave. So this is like an event-related potential, like an oddball. And really what we tell the participant the task is to press a button when they see the goggles. But what we are able to see is how much processing one is doing to one's own face related with death. And the expectation would be, because of the self-bias effect, the expectation would be that my own face versus a stranger will receive more processing. And my own face with death versus neutral would receive the highest processing, because it's like capturing my attention. But the funny thing is that we found that there is no processing to the death self condition, as if the brain didn't even see that. So this is what we call the death denial effect. We don't even want to see that and process that. And so taking a step forward, we saw the meditators that do this kind of full dissolution of the self in the MEG. It's like a little death. Like in the Buddhism, it's been called a little death. So they might be handling this thing better, show more death acceptance, less death denial. And to cut a long story short, this is the control. So no death denial processing, but these are the meditators. It gets the maximum processing. So they do show death acceptance. And what is even more interesting is that this death acceptance index, the death acceptance index is correlated with the affect. So the more relaxed they are during the boundary dissolution in the MEG, the less death denial they have. And I've been talking to Susan and like giving more like the intuition about it. We can call it the growing up and the waking up axis of the human development. And we think that all the other phenomenological of feeling the unity, dissolving the boundaries, are on the waking up. Although probably there was EEG studies with monks and meditators in India since the 30s of the previous century. But I want to give a nice example. I just heard in a conference in Padova in June, that was, I don't know if you know, Josh Brachinski and Michael Lifshitz and Tanya Luhrmann. This is a great team of anthropologists and neuroscience that work on speaking things. That is, how many of you know this phenomena? Just show me, speaking in tongues. It comes from the New Testament. It's in the context of the early Christian church. I'm trying to give you here an example. Do we have the audio here?
Alex, Claudio. Okay.
The Archbishop of Canterbury, who's just resigned from his job, he speaks in tongues.
Who?
The Archbishop of Canterbury, the head of the Christian church throughout the world, he speaks in tongues.
After how many times?
Amazing. No? No audio?
But he does it with delivery.
Yeah.
I can do anything.
So this study is here in the early stages. They have the phenomenology, the units of experience, published in this paper. But they are just now, they're working with PEG and they're still analyzing it. I didn't see the results of that, but it's just an example of what can be done with that. And like us, it is a team that is really combined by anthropologists, Tanya Luhrmann and Josh Brachinski is also. Well, now I can't seem to be able to, okay. So how many of you know what is hyperscanning? Okay, hyperscanning means measuring brain activity from more than one brain simultaneously. So it can be two, it could be more. There's a technical problem. I don't think the system for more than 10 together, and there are very few, I didn't see works on 10 together, but definitely 2 or 4 for musicians. So usually the equipment is either FNIRS or EEG. I just learned that there is a new development of MEG. You know that? I didn't either. And I think the whole thing is, yeah, the whole thing is like the last decade approximately, and it's really focused on social interaction. So it can be in the context of education, like this paper is showing students and teachers. So there is the more neural synchrony between them, the more learning outcome. I mean, that's intuitive, but it's nice to see that. And in romantic couples, that's actually a study from my university. Simon Shammai Tzuri, she's a colleague from Haifa, and that was published in PNAS. They show coupling in romantic couples. They have less pain experience when they have pain stimulus while they hold the hands, and there is a brain synchronization between them. And these are new examples of looking into psychotherapy. What's the underlying mechanism in psychotherapy? So it seems that the synchronization, the hero is the right temporal-parietal junction in the theta band. So it might be related to what we are trying to do in our study with the curanderos, even though there is no language and it might be a totally different underlying mechanism. But this would be an hypothesis. So this is just one figure of what we have been doing. I think you would hear more about that. This is one of the curanderos. And maybe just to finish, I want to say that we just submitted together a proposal for a grant to have a continuation of the study where we kind of broke down if we want to see what is correlated with the subjective healing sense of the participant, if it comes from the neural synchronization or from the patient's worldview or some behavioral synchronization that we can see from the videos, or maybe it's just a phenomenology of healing, what is happening during it's the personal experience, but it maybe cannot be traced to the others. So different mechanism could be the underlying cause of that. And just to finish by saying that now 1.5 years later, I will to start another study. This is a hyperscanning study with EEG and ECG in Huautla, looking into psilocybin Mazatec ceremonies. We worked with one curandero, and this is the curandero Hugo something. And yeah, that's a beautiful team. It's a collaboration with a Canadian team, Karim Gerbi, Michael Lifshitz, and Guillaume Dumas. And the students, just a little bit of a taste of it. So what did you learn? This is experience tracing, TET. It's a track of a time course of the intensity of the specific experience. That in this case is connection with the curandero, connection with oneself, connection to the spirit, different, and like you see, we have this kind of, it's like 3 hours interviewing and then asking them to go over that and putting specific moments and tracing the experience, but then to be able to correlate that. Oh, now you come, it's too late. Okay. Anyways, this is just to give you an understanding of the breadth of the work, of the collected data, and what needs to be combined together. That was me. Thank you very much. Okay.